So I'm sitting there waiting for some magic window to pop up, and finally I'm like, oh, duh, this is on Zoom. It's not like a call coming in that's
Oh,
just gonna pop on my desktop. Oh man. Man.
okay.
All right, let me make sure everything's set up. Cool. Sweet. Well, how's your week?
Good. Well, thanks again for joining me first, Mike. Welcome
Yeah,
back to
glad
the
to be
Grumpy
here.
Dad podcast. Excited to talk more about parenting and being a dad and running a small business and all the things that are us on a weekly basis. So, let's dive in. I actually feel like this week I was not as grumpy as last week, which is
It's always a win.
I'm trying not to, like, man, you know, nailing it this week as a father. I'm sure next week will be lousy, but it was a halfway decent week. I think a lot of that is, and this is kind of what made me grumpy, and it wasn't my kids. I started going for walks in the morning because that's what my physical therapist recommended for my knees. Turns out everybody's right. Walks are really good for your mental health,
Yeah.
and just setting yourself up to have a good day and putting your emotions in check. And I very specifically, I was like, well, if I'm doing this for exercise, I might as well amp up the mental health portion and not do no music, no audiobook, just an empty brain, walking the dog around the block. And
That's great.
I think I got 4 of the 5 days this week, and that the one day I didn't was the day was like my grumpiest day this week. And
Wow.
I was telling my wife, I was like, I am kind of frustrated how well this works because now I just have to do it like forever for the rest of my life. I have to
Yep.
wake up in the morning and go for a walk, or otherwise I yell at my kids. So I guess this is my
It
lot.
should ingrain in you at some point, but yeah, it's that's how I said last time I did a diet. I was doing this high protein thing, and I was like, I am so bummed at how good I feel. I am drinking water, eating better, and I feel great. And I don't know how I can sustain this, and
Yeah.
that's all part of it. You just try something, and you find the balance and how to work it in. That's great that
Yeah.
walks are working for you. I love a good walk. I just to take the time to do them these days. It's tougher than it should be. But
Yeah, that's the
don't
challenge. And it's
don't
so
stop.
cold and the sun's not out yet. And I'm just, it's
How
frustrating.
early are you doing it?
6 a.m. Not even that early.
Jeez.
Still dark.
Speak for yourself.
Well, I mean, my kids are up at 6:30 banging around the kitchen trying to feed
Yeah,
themselves.
we're
So,
we're 6:30. That's when our whole house gets up, and if possible, not a minute before, but we tend to find a way to lose 20 minutes before the alarm goes off somehow.
yeah, always. So I'm a little grumpy that that works so well. Yeah, other than that, it was a pretty solid week. I did have one day, and it's just so funny because it just goes right into the next session of why it's worth it, because I got really upset at my daughter because she had a meltdown because when I called her and her brother to come help me clean the kitchen, her brother got up the stairs faster than she did. And for a
That
three
sounds
year
like a
old,
great reason to have a meltdown.
right?
Yeah. Oh, for a 3-year-old. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so
Like,
she was just
yeah,
at the
of
bottom of the
course.
stairs, screaming and crying and bawling and throwing a fit. And I'm just like, what are you like? I got so frustrated. I was like, just get up here and help. I'm not. It's like, on one hand, I'm like, man, I really appreciate how much you wanted to come help dad. On the other hand, calm down. Like,
Yeah.
calm the heck down and cut me some slack here. There's lots of chores. Trust me, there's always lots of chores. So
Oh yeah.
that was my week. How about you?
Oh, this was a crazy week. So last Friday actually, Becca ended up going into emergency surgery.
Oh
She
no.
had a surgery back in September, and there was a complication came up out of the blue. Talked to the doctor. He's like, "Come on in." And so had to get stuff taken care of, and so there's been fallout from that. And so that's
Oh
been
yeah.
kind of like the underpinning of everything. And something I realized is, and like I've known this, but it was very evident, is just how center she is for every single thing that happens in our life. And so
Yeah.
when she's down, because like if I'm sick and I'm, down and out, the house moves on. I've got to deal with work stuff, but she takes the kids to school in the morning is really that's like the big difference. But I'm so busy with my other stuff. She has built this entire world. And so when she goes down, it's just like, oh my gosh, there's so much I
Yeah.
have to pick up on. And I assume, your dynamic might be a little bit different between you and your wife just because of you guys'
Yeah.
situation. But so that was like the underpinning of this week is doing picking up so much stuff there and taking care of everything so that she can heal. And that's what we want, right? Like I don't
Yeah.
want her to do this stuff. I want her job to be you sit and lay there and let your body rest and try to let your mind rest. And so that was the goal. Anyway, so that was the underpinning of this week. And I think the hardest thing in that moment is I'll single out Niles, our youngest. I don't think there's a single thing I asked him to do this week that he did the first time I asked. And not only that, if I did not tell him exactly the next thing he should be doing, his level of distraction was at an all-time high.
Yeah.
And so spending that time being like, okay, now take your right hand, put it on your toothbrush, lift it up. Like if I wasn't giving him step by step and I looked away for a second, he was somewhere else. And it was especially bad this week.
Oh yeah.
And so that was really fun. Um, lots of talks, and yeah, I mean, obviously he's not doing it intentionally, and it was just every second I spent doing that, I'm like, I could be using this
It's
time
like
doing something else. So I need you to
why
just
this
do the
week?
thing.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
just increase your level of incompetence beyond the normal.
this is the same thing we've done every single night of your entire life, your whole 6 years. And anyway, so that was tough. And then chores, we so our girls would unload the dishwasher and they would always like one would take the top shelf and one would take the bottom shelf. And Becca and I were like, what are we doing? When we were their age, we could load a dishwasher. We hated it, but like we could fully load the
Yeah.
dishwasher. And so we threw them to the wolves. And it's kind of that actually was a benefit of Becca being down because I was busy with work and I was like, I need you guys to take care of the dishes. And
Yeah.
so when you load the dishwasher, if you're not sure where it goes, just think, where do I pull this out whenever I unload the dishwasher? And that's probably the place you should put it in. And they did it. And so that was helpful, but just that realization is like I don't remember what age I was when my mom taught me how to
Yeah.
load the dishwasher, and we just kind
Which
of
probably tells
breezed
you it's
right,
pretty young, right?
right,
If you
right,
can't remember.
right, and we just breezed over that. I was like, dang it, totally missed the boat on that. So now we got to pick up the pieces, and so that was frustrating, and maybe a little grumpy to realize that we had let it get to that point. It's on us. We didn't never
Yeah.
stop to teach them. It's not their fault, and so we had a crash course on that this week. But it ended up being good altogether. I really love the challenge this week. There was a moment, and I don't know if you want to get into the challenge now because it's
Yeah,
definitely
yeah, you're
part of
good.
my what made it
Yeah.
worth it. So Ross, he he's a lot like me where he will pick up a new interest and he will want to just dive into it. And with him, his body gets just as excited as his mind does, and he'll start pacing and start moving. And so we gotta have a lot of talks about when you get excited about a project that's really good and setting expectations because then he'll also get disappointed if there's any bad news with this thing he's just up here about. And I'm like, oh well, we probably actually can't do that. It's just crash. And so
Yeah.
this week he was looking into getting a lizard and
Oh, I just lost your audio. Oh no. Is that my headphones? My headphones might have just died though.
test 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 test
Okay,
test.
I
Oh
can
no.
I can hear you again.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, I can hear you again.
Weird, it's not showing up on my equalizer. Anyway, um, so it was fun to like walk him through like, how to enjoy something without losing steam and without getting super disappointed. Like, recognize this is going to take a while. You're excited right now. You want it to all happen right now, but it's not going to happen right now. But that doesn't mean this isn't some new passion in your life. And
Yeah,
I don't know. It was just really cool because this is all stuff that I wish someone had told me when I was a kid. And I love those moments where I can finally identify and be like, oh my gosh, this is my chance to tell my younger self exactly what my younger self needed to hear that I just never got to hear. And so that was pretty special this week.
that's
Um,
that's really
yeah,
neat, and I agree with that. I think because I'm the same way, right? With I have 10,000 interests, but every week it's a roll of a dice which one is hitting the dopamine and serotonin for me. So
right,
I think you're
exactly.
right that you kind of look at your kids, you're like, oh, I get this. And right now for me, it's been Emmett. He's been so into cooking. He constantly wants to cook, and I'm
Right.
just like, part of cooking's cleaning, bud. Like
Yep.
that's a hard thing for him to hear. Is he's like, no, no, I just watched a show, and they just show all the cooking. And I'm like, well, our kitchen's a disaster, so
Yeah. And the
and
supplies are just there. They just open a fridge and have
right,
all the
yeah,
supplies and they're all fresh.
right.
And
And so it's you're trying to balance that, like, hey, I'd love for you to enjoy cooking. It's something I'm passionate about, but there's this other thing that goes along with it. Here's the responsible way to do the activity that you're really hype about right now.
yeah. That's such a cool, I mean, as an ADHDer, like
Mm,
those are specific frameworks that I think instilling in my kids are really going to pay off in the future so that when they find those things, they don't have that rush and the crash, right? They can really
right.
actually dive into something. Because I know my problem was I would get into something, I'd get pretty proficient pretty quick at it, and then it'd lose steam and I'd move on to something else.
Oh
And so
yeah,
I have this long
100%.
list, yeah,
Yeah.
like 80% skill level things with a ton of random things, but I was never taught how to like understand how and why I love something and be able to really pursue it to depth. And yeah, so I hope I can help my kids navigate that.
And I think one of the things that I've been just, I mean, this is recent. In like the last 5 years, I've realized, oh, one of the most important things I'm coming to terms with around that concept is how to wind down an activity that I was super passionate about. Right? You buy all the stuff, you get into something, and then you got to figure out, okay, am I going to be into this again? Like, because I'm not now. Right? I was 2 weeks. For the last 6 months has been my life. I'm not as into it now. How do you store that stuff? How do you keep it? How do you, because there's some stuff I'm like, yeah, I will be into this again. It's just not
Yeah.
doing for me right now. And that's something I've been trying to teach my kids as well. It's like, just because you stopped being into something doesn't mean we throw it all away. Because odds are good you're going to be back into this next year or in 6 months or when we can finally get the piece of equipment that you were kind of waiting on to take it to the next level. There's all these, everything happens in stages and seasons, and you can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater when that kind of ADHD
Yeah.
serotonin and dopamine hit a low point on that activity. And so that's been really good as well to teach, and for myself to kind of reiterate, like, okay, I'm it's the middle of the winter and I'm like, why do I even have a mountain bike? I don't even go mountain biking. It's like, am I still into that? Well, yeah, I love it, and I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to do it again as soon as the weather gets nice. But it's fine to take all my equipment and put it up on a high shelf until the weather gets nice, and that's part of the process of like, hey, we just set these aside for now. And there's some things that you're like, nah, I'm done with this. Like, turns out this
Yeah.
was not my life, and you can just kind of ditch completely. But so my son got really into video recording um, on a GoPro, and he's just, he loved that all through Christmas. But now he's on to cooking. But I still got all the GoPro equipment because,
Right.
you know, give it, he's just kind of waiting for me to, I got to offload some footage. I got to get him some more SD cards, kind of set up more of a process because he just records
Right.
hours and hours of stuff. And I got to sit down and teach him, okay, here's how you sort through footage, and here's how here's a hard drive you can use, and that kind of thing. So, when we kind of get a little bit more equipment, he can dive back into that.
That's a good lesson that
Yeah.
I need now. I've got two. two go-karts and two kid ATVs that not only when you're done with something, don't throw it away, but like you said, put it away because
Hmm.
I just left it out. I did not do all the steps to preserve it. And so now every time I want to go back to it, there's so much work to get back into it. It's not ready to just pick back up. The
Right.
covers blew off and then it got weathered and now the starter probably got water in it. So I got to replace the starter solenoid again, which is like $15, but then it's like 30 minutes, like it's a
Yep.
whole thing. And spending that time to do things right the first time almost always pays off on the back end. We call it
Right.
being kind to your future self.
Oh
I think it's time we bring that back. It's
yeah.
like it's like look at where we are right now and how you're feeling. It's because old you is not
Mhm.
kind to this you. So let's
Yep.
this you be kind to future you, and future you is gonna love it. And let's get in that
Yep.
habit.
I love that.
And yeah, so I
I
get
love
it.
that. I'm gonna write that down. Be kind to future you. Well,
Yep.
well, I'm glad our topic this week is chores because we both had kind of experiences with chores, and it's honestly one of the things that we'll probably end up doing this topic like 3 times a month because
Yeah.
it's the
Seriously.
number one thing that sets me off is when my kids can't, won't, or forget to do chores. Um, and you kind of mentioned this, the age appropriateness aspect of this is one of the real struggles that in a family with kids of differing ages, or a wider spread, I should say, of ages, because I think ours are 10 to 3. That's a pretty good spread, and yours are what, 13 to 4,
Six. 13 to 6.
6, yeah. And so that always, that seemed like I mean, it is one of the challenges, right? Of my 10-year-old is constantly harping on my 3-year-old for not doing chores the way my 10-year-old does chores. And I'm like, you can't expect the same things. And I understand that
Right.
you feel it's not fair, but she's literally half your age, and I just don't expect the same thing from her when I ask you guys to do similar tasks. Um, so we've got a list of age appropriate chores that I posted in the show notes, and you can kind of take a look. I think it's kind of cool just to go through this stuff because I don't know that my kids are doing all of these things. Um, and like you said, I think that at least in my own life, I don't give enough responsibility to them. And I saw somebody quote, I saw a quote somewhere. Somebody said, "You really should do nothing for your kids that they're not physically capable of doing for themselves." And I was
Wow.
like, that might sound a little extreme, but I think
It
in most
resonates for a reason.
cases, right, like in most cases, it's probably pretty accurate that
Yeah.
if they can physically do it, they can physically reach, you might want to have them at least try, if not,
Right.
do it outright. So, um,
That's great.
yeah. Any of these on the list that kind of stand out to you for the age group?
I mean, yeah, this it's always going to be different for every family dynamic, right?
Right.
And and then every kid. The number of variables involved with what's the right structure is, I think, what we struggle with because growing up, I grew up with my mom was very, every single thing had the proper way to do that thing.
Yeah.
And so I was trained when you do the bathroom, you start at the top and you work your way down because you don't want to be having cleaned the counters and the floors and then you're spraying the mirror and you're getting mist all over the count.
Yeah.
Very scrupulous. There's a right way to do things, a right way to load the dishwasher. There's a right way to clean the room. And so I grew up with that. And not every kid works that way. And to this day, sometimes if I walk into a space where I don't have that list, I have to fight blanking out on how to get this done because it was just fed to me. Here's exactly how it is. You just follow this list and
Yeah.
you're good to go. Whereas Becca, my wife, she walks in and her brain immediately detangles the web of a room and she can clean up a space like that. And I'm not a dumb person, but it is clear that our brains naturally or through training work very
Sure.
differently when we approach this
Yeah.
specific problem and how to help our kids be independent in that just see what needs to be done but also here's a process. Like that balance, we
Yeah.
struggle with understanding it ourselves, let alone teaching it to our kids. And so we see stuff like this and that makes sense. And we do expect, like, put toys in basket. You know,
Mhm.
we tell our kids, there are toys here, put them away. And sometimes they do it. And sometimes it's just that blank. They're just like, but there's also a blanket. Oh, I'm freaking out. I can't
Yeah.
parse the information my brain is taking in with this mess. And I don't know what to do. So we just take things as we can.
I mean, that gets into one of the things that I want to talk about, which is a discussion that I've had with my oldest, which is chores are not easier for me if you guys are doing them, right? Like, if I wanted this picked up easily and quickly, I would do it because I'm going to be faster and I'm going to do it better than you will, right? Like, this isn't, I'm not asking you to clean up because this is easier for me. In most cases, 99% of cases, it's harder for me to manage you picking up toys.
Oh,
But it's,
10,000%.
it's
My
important
goodness.
that you learn these skills. And, my youngest doesn't understand that, but my oldest is starting to understand that, oh, she pays attention and she sees, wow, when dad wants to unload the dishwasher, it's done. Like, takes him 2 minutes flat. Like, it is
Yep.
not that hard. And it's some of that, sure, is that I can reach everywhere and I have big hands that can pick up a lot of dishes at one time. But, some of it isn't that. It's just, you got to do it. And I know how to do it. And so that's something I've been teaching her. For the youngers, right? They don't care.
Yeah.
But they're, slowly picking up and figuring that thing out.
Well, we had a crazy situation with our youngers the other day. So Ross and Niall share a room. So I mean, I don't know how long this will take for this podcast to reach not immediate family members. So most people know our
Yeah.
dynamics, but I have two girls that are older and then two boys who are younger. And so the girls share a room, boys share a room, which is great. We can fit into any 3 bedroom house in America. It's wonderful, worked out
Perfect.
awesome. So the boys, they have a hard time cleaning their room. If I ask them to clean, we've done so many different techniques. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. There was one day where they really wanted something, play with a friend or something. I was like, guys, you can't do that until this room is clean. And I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. So if this room isn't clean, come time for you to leave for your friends or whatever it was, you will not go. And that's your choice.
Yeah.
And they cleaned their room in 40 minutes. And it was good. And I was like bummed out. I was like, guys, the problem is now we know that you're capable of this, right?
Right.
And so
You set the bar.
yeah, we had a discussion about the difference between motivation and discipline. And I thought, oh, this is a great dad moment. Like, I'm going to demonstrate this. And then they had to clean their room again. And Ross, the older boy, he's 9 now, just turned 9, comes in. He's like, Dad, I can't clean my room. I'm just not motivated.
I'm just
I'm like, well, I'm like, I get that. So we got to work on being disciplined. And
yeah.
it just, apparently, it was not just a single time fix. And
Yeah.
discipline comes over time and repetition, but it was just so funny. He was so bummed because he latched onto it and he was bummed that he wasn't motivated to have the energy to complete the task like he was
Oh
that one
yeah.
time. And and so the fight continues.
Yeah. Constantly. One of the things we found really good success with that I need to bring back, because we did this and then we remodeled and so we lost it. But what I did is we had them clean really well and I helped them vacuum to put everything away, like picture perfect, staging the house for, like selling it type of
Hmm.
thing. And then I took a bunch of pictures, like 4 or 5 pictures, and I put them in a collage. I printed it off. I put it in a plastic sleeve, and I taped it to the back of their door. So when their door's shut, they can see it.
Yeah.
And it was really awesome for a while when we were doing that because you could just say it needs to look
Does
like
it
that,
look like this? Yep.
and
That's a real
they would just run
psychological
around the
trick.
room checking, like, oh, does it look like this? And when we were doing it, it was awesome because they would even like get the stuffed animals and like put them on their bed, like they're like, okay, check, okay, there it is, just like that, right? And I need to bring that back. But this is the story. You have something that works, and then something happens.
Yeah.
Life happens and you lose it. So
Well,
we had all these
I'm
pictures. We remodeled the basement and lost them all, and I haven't had a chance to redo it again. So
I mean that's adults too, right? How many times have I had a great
yeah,
diet, a great workout
yep,
routine? I
yep.
went on walks and then
You get
just
sick.
it's
A kid gets sick. Your car breaks down. Your dog, like whatever. It's
yeah. But that technique, I've heard of that before actually.
yeah.
And it was some real, I'm sure, some child
I'm
psychologist
sure.
where
I'm sure.
it has something to do with their processing, but if they can visually process something that's able to get past their prefrontal cord, whatever the case is.
Sure.
And it was so we even tried that with our kids because they do the thing like, "Can I be done eating now?" And it's like, I know
Right.
you had like 2 bites, so you have not had the nutrition your body needs. And so I would show them my plate, be like, see my plate? When your plate looks like this, assuming everything went into your body, not
Yeah.
in the
On the
trash,
floor.
that means you're done. And that's a skill that I've forgotten about till this moment. So that might be something we bring back as
Yeah.
well. Because
And
then there's
again,
less of
like,
that parsing again of the information in the head. It's just feeding that directly through their eyes to their brain, like this is it. And you can
yeah,
identify, what that looks like.
yeah.
I
We
like that.
always one of the things that my wife, she's an engineer, right? And she works on a manufacturing floor. And she hates it when I do this because she sees work stuff as like, oh, here's how to efficiently manufacture this thing in the best way possible. And so one of the principles that they talk about at her work is point of use, that you put things where they're supposed to be used, right? Like, and you do that. And one of the things that she's been struggling to bring home is like, I know you don't like seeing this tool or this thing or this toy out and not put away in a cupboard or a drawer or a bin, but this is where the kids use it. And so if we just hang it on the wall or like let them find a place for it where they're using it, then they'll put it away even if you don't feel like it's completely put away. At least it's like up off the floor, it's out of the way.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that we talk about a lot is how can we make it easier for our kids to put toys away.
Oh, I just
um
lost your audio.
that is so weird.
I wonder if Zoom is
So
just having trouble. Can you hear me still?
yeah,
I can't hear you at all.
I don't know what happened. It still says
There we
can you hear
go.
me?
Yeah, so I think Zoom is just pooping out.
Zoom's just struggling. Well, good to know for next time. Anyway, so it's been fun to kind of explore like how do we create
Balance function
systems.
and aesthetics,
Yes,
form
that
versus function,
right.
basically.
Constantly, we want things to look nice, but
Yeah.
we also want kids aren't going to put away a toy if they have to open a cupboard, pull out a drawer, and open the lid, and it's all downstairs. It's like you kind of got to figure out how to manage that as well. So
And I'm totally on board with that idea of putting things where they're used. But it is a balance, obviously. I am much more function. My wife is much more form. And so
yeah,
for me, like if we have guitars, I want to hang them up on the wall so they're off the ground, but then they're out, whereas she prefers maybe a cleaner area and doesn't want to see the guitars on the wall.
yeah.
And so that kind of stuff is, constant balance. But that's a great
That's
lesson
why
for the kids.
that's why my board games are in here.
Right. Yeah, just stop and think. How often have you used this? When was the last time you used this? So does this need to be this available?
Right.
You know? Um, and then if you are going to use something a lot, I recommend spending time and money on creating a space that makes it easier to use and do that thing. If you're going to spend a lot of time somewhere, spend the money to make it nice, to make it as pleasant of an experience as you possibly can.
Yeah.
That's
Oh
why
yeah.
people spend so much money on chairs at their desk, right? Your
Oh
butt
yeah.
sits has a lot of hours in that chair, and so or shoes or car tires,
Yeah.
and so I think that's a good lesson.
I agree 100%. So one of the things that we've been working with, I mentioned it a little bit, but is that my oldest daughter doesn't, she doesn't appreciate how bad her younger siblings are at chores. And that's been a real struggle.
She never will.
And
When
yeah,
she's 40 and they're 37, it's
she's
what are
still going
you
to be holding
doing?
it against them, I'm sure. Yeah. But I think part of that as well is I was just thinking about this as we are getting ready for this topic that I don't think I'm giving her hard enough jobs. as we talked about, whatever they're physically capable of doing, I think I have just let her slide. I don't think I've increased her responsibility since she was her younger brother's age. And so she's like, well, I'm doing the chores. My younger brother does the chores and he does them fine because he's 8, right? And then these other two kids are just not pulling their weight, right? And it's like, well, what I need to show her is, hey, there's things you should be doing that your 8-year old brother can't do. And to give her kind of like a perspective of, oh, like, bring her forward a little bit in that process. I think would
100%.
end up
Yeah,
being
totally.
really helpful. And that's why I'm looking at this list. I mean, she can make her bed, she can do her laundry, she helps put groceries away, all of that ages 6 to 8 stuff. She does not load the dishwasher. She only will unload it, and she gets really cranky when her siblings take too long to put dishes and knives and forks away.
Yeah.
Right? We have started. She does a little bit of floor mopping, which is we got a wet dry mop. Oh, it's like the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
Oh, she loves it. She just goes and gets a nice clean on. She'll do some laundry, but a lot of this stuff in the age 12 to 14, laundry, deep cleaning. She's not doing any deep cleaning, right? Planning and cooking meals, like she'll make a grilled cheese and she can flip
Yeah.
pancakes, but I haven't. I need to do some of that. I don't have a lawn. I hope to rectify that this year. um, but so it's this. Hey, there's stuff that I probably need to elevate her. But we have,
Yeah.
and the thing is, she's ready for it because we've had the responsibilities versus privileges kind of um, discussion, right? And she understands, like, oh, if I take on additional responsibilities, I will get additional privileges. And she's actually been really good, right? Because as parents, we forget this. Like, if we're going to give them responsibilities, they need to have additional privileges. If we're going to
Yeah.
treat them as getting older, we need to treat them as they're getting older. And so one of the things that she's enjoyed for the last year or so is a slightly later bedtime, which her siblings don't know, but like we've basically said, if you're in your room and quiet, you go to bed when like you kind of set your own bedtime. You're allowed to stay
Yeah.
up, work on your little crafts. If you want to do puzzles, if you want to do activities, whatever, just be quiet and go to bed before too long. And so she recognizes that, and on top of that, part of it is we got her, a smartwatch. We're not doing the phone, but we got her a little smartwatch, which mostly it's for my anxiety, which I'm trying not to be a helicopter parent, but it's brutal.
Yep.
But and then we have to, I give it to her, and then I have to say, when she asks, "Can I go to the park by myself?" As a 10-year-old, I have to say, "Yes, yes, you can. You can,
Oh,
you can
I
walk
feel
the
that.
half mile oh,
Yeah.
through our neighborhood, not any big streets. It's just through our neighborhood to the little park around the corner. I've given you the resources. You have shown me, like I've given you responsibilities, and this is your privilege. You can go to the park, meet your friends." And then the other day, she stepped it up a notch. She said, "Dad, I've got some birthday money. Can I go to the gas station and buy a snack?" And that was like, I was like, "Yeah, we can go to." She's like, "No, no, no. I want to walk there and buy it myself." And I was just like, "Ooh, yes." And I'm like,
Yeah.
part of me's like
That's
10 years
great.
old. Like she's so little, she's so young. And then I think, I
What were
mean,
you
at
doing when you were
10,
10?
yeah, I mean, I was trying to
Riding
catch
around the
air.
neighborhood
Yeah,
and
I was on a
yeah.
bike trying to catch air over, through the ditch. We would ride through the ditch and down one side and out the other and try to, I was doing sketchy, scary stuff, a mile and a half, 2 miles from my house without a phone, without a watch. And that's good for kids to just experience some of that. And you kind of have to do it. What's the quote? Like, you should never interrupt your kids that are doing something dangerous
If they're doing it carefully.
safely, carefully. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Um,
think it was Jordan Peterson. Either he
yeah, something
originated
like
it or he
that.
was quoting, yeah, your kids should be allowed to do something dangerous if they're doing it carefully, something
Right.
to that effect.
Which is not,
Because,
realistically, it's not dangerous to send them to the park, but that's the
right,
idea, right? Like, they need to go experience life. So, yeah,
those are good
that's what
challenges
I've
that
got.
we've been through. Luckily, the girls, since they're close in age, they'll go together. Carmen
Mhm.
being more responsible. Um, But yeah, all those anxieties. We actually had a cool story the other day where we had to get some stuff done, and we had the two girls and their cousin Emma is the same age as Carmen, just a little bit younger. So the three girls hang out all the time. And my wife was like, "Do girls want to go see a movie?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." And she's like, "Okay, I'll drop you off. We'll get the movie. We'll drop you off." And they're like, "Wait, you're gonna just drop us off at the movie theater?"
Oh,
And she was like, "Well, yeah. I mean, you guys are 10, 12, and 13, and I'm gonna pick you up. You guys are gonna be together. Emma has a phone. Carmen, we'll have to, when we talk about technology sometime, we'll talk about the phone that we got her. It's a little QWERTY keyboard,
oh,
talk and
nice.
text
Yeah,
phone.
that's perfect.
It's like $6 a month. Um, and we're like, yeah. And they were like, oh, what? And it was fine. My wife dropped them off. We did the stuff we had to do in town. They watched the movie for a couple hours. And then when the movie was over, they came out and we picked them up because that's what kids that age do.
And
And
should
I
be
am
doing. Yeah.
forgetting that that's what I used to do. I used to skateboard 2 miles by myself to Cloverleaf Bowl in Fremont to
Mhm.
bowl on my own during the summer because we got free summer bowling passes. I would skate there, play my bowling, one game of bowling, and skateboard home by myself, crossing
Yeah.
train tracks on the side of busy roads, and I did just fine. And I am, it kills me. It
It's
kills me
so rough,
inside.
dude. Yeah, I
Because I want
get
them
it.
to have the experience too. How much of our
Right.
childhood was made when we were jumping the ramps and
Mhm.
scraping our knees and that kind of stuff? But it makes it so easy to just keep track. And keeping track is fine, right?
Yeah.
If we can, it's easy, no problem. But letting them start to explore outside the nest
Yeah.
is the worst.
Well, and the nice thing is it's given me a little point of leverage when I need to discipline her because I
Yeah,
tell her, "Hey, this is something for somebody who's responsible. If you can't do this chore, if you can't take this responsibility, you know, you don't get the privilege. You don't get to do these things. You don't get to go
yeah,
out with your friends by yourself and et cetera, et cetera." And the other thing is she's recognizing like, "Hey, I have a responsibility because I'm the one with the smartwatch, right? With the watch." Because her brother will say, "Hey, can I go do these things?" And I'm like, "No, you can't. You're too little." But you go ask your sister, and if she says no, then you get her watch.
yeah,
Right? Like if you're the one with the watch, you have the responsibility to. It's kind of like as soon as you get your driver's license, you got to go pick up your siblings everywhere they are.
yep,
And so I tell her, "Hey, you're the one with the watch. We gave you this watch. It's your responsibility to be willing to walk your brother to his friend's house, and to take him around and make sure that he's safe. And if you're not willing to do that, then give him the watch." And she always says, "Fine, I'll go get my shoes on," because she doesn't
yeah.
want to give up. Right? She loves feeling that responsibility and having that kind of that specialness of having the smartwatch. So,
We're about to have that conversation with
all
cars
right.
in the next couple years.
Oh
So,
yeah, dude. I'm Yeah. Don't talk to me about that. That's way too far away.
I think that's such a super important part of all of it is giving them more privileges. And we've tried to talk to our kids about that a little bit. I know the other week I talked about with my boys with power tools, like if you're going to be able to use tools, I need to know that I can immediately trust you and all this kind of stuff. And something I
Yeah.
remember when I was a little bit older, I don't have a ton of memories from when I was a little kid, but something I do remember is my parents always gave us really good curfews. Mine were always later than my friends, like usually by about an hour. Like I think when I was 14, it was like 11 o'clock, and then 16 was midnight, and then once I was 18, it was just like you're an adult, be responsible.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
And I never broke curfew. Like it it was I even at that young age, I had that recognition of that balance. Like I am actually given really good leeway and room, and I don't want to break that. And so I think navigating that with your young kids, it's a different conversation. But I think they're like that's what you want to find to really understand that balance. Like you are giving
Yeah.
them something to really feel like they're being rewarded, they're growing, they're learning based off of what they're doing. It's not just a chore to check a list to make mom and dad happy. Like they are advancing in life.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what I was mentioning, that I think that my daughter would actually do her chores better if we gave her harder chores,
Yeah,
because it would make her feel like, "Oh, this is actually something that only I can do. My siblings are not capable of doing this. This is my job." And to
yeah,
give them that kind of sense of responsibility that then they can take ownership of something. And I always one of the things that I've had discussion with my wife, and we kind of go back and forth because in our family we always tried the chore chart for years and years, and I don't know how your family was, right? And it was the rotating every day or week, you get a different this and that, and eventually, I have 6 kids in my family. It was just too much. And what ended up happening is my parents said, "All right, everybody just has one. Like, here's your stuff, and you just do that one." And so my brother, he was the one that swept,
Yeah.
my oldest brother, and I think I was in charge of clearing and wiping the table, and taking care of the chairs and the dining area type thing. And I had another sibling that just loaded the dishwasher. That was just He just stood at the sink and he hung out, and everybody else brought the dishes. He didn't have to bring them, and then he just loaded the dishes, right? And
Did that work for
th-
you guys, or was there like chore
so, I
jealousy?
mean,
Like,
again,
oh, they got to
it's
just sweep,
yeah,
you know?
20 years ago. Who knows how it actually went down? But in my perspective, from my perspective, it was very effective. It's hard because as a parent, you want your kids to learn to do everything. They need to know how to do a wide variety of chores. Just, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago that you got to give them a wide variety of things that they like to do. They can't just play Minecraft all the time. And in that same token, they got to learn to do a wide variety of tasks. I don't want to have my kids be the ones that are terrible roommates in college, right? Or
Right.
get married and have their spouses be, asking why they don't know how to wipe a counter or, load a dishwasher. Like, well, I was the one that swept, right? But it's part of that balance of, like, as a parent, what can you enforce? What can you manage? What additional overhead can you add to this set of tasks that you have to take care of? And then just the simplicity of, hey, here's a task that you can get good at. You can kind of specialize into this. And again, from my perspective, my brother was just the one that swept, and he got good at it. He kind of knew where all the nooks and crannies were, and the floor was always, he swept
Interesting.
really, really well. And maybe it was just because he was my oldest brother and he was older than me, and just that was something he was capable of doing. But we never complained because I hate sweeping.
Yeah.
And it was like, we had, I don't know if you remember our house growing up, but we had a giant room that, it was
Yeah.
end to end, kitchen, dining, kind of sitting area, and you had to do the whole thing. So I mean, it was
Wow.
it was a fairly sizable chore to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm happy to not do that ever again. I hate sweeping.
So I
Like,
wonder how much of like that mental load and the removal of the expectation, because the expectation, once it's there, it never changes, right? So it's not like every
yeah,
week there's a new set of rules that you're going to follow.
yeah.
It's the same thing. I'm curious how much that played into to that. That's really cool. I've never actually heard of a big family doing that. I've always had the
Uh,
chore charts.
and the struggle is, I really want to do this because I counted every day this week that my oldest daughter flat out yelled at her younger siblings while unloading the dishwasher. Just straight up screamed because they were, dancing in between dishes or walking too slowly or getting in her way. Like, it just sets her off
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm at a point where I think maybe you just are the one that unloads the dishwasher, and it's just you top to bottom,
10,000%.
and you don't interact.
Unloading
But
dishwasher is a one person job. That's what
well,
Beck and I talked about that
and maybe
this
that's what
week.
we're kind of at is, I mean, but this is the challenge, right? Is But then my other kids just don't learn how to unload a dishwasher until she leaves for college, right? Like,
Right.
or then do I have to set up, like, well, Fridays everybody picks a different job,
Well,
or
or
like
maybe it's an
whatever it
age thing.
is.
When from like
Yeah,
10 to 11, you are
and
the
maybe
dishwasher
that's what we need
loader.
to do. Yeah,
And then
maybe
once you
that's what
age into
needs
the
to
next
be.
thing, you become this, the next sibling becomes this, and it just like titrates down. Maybe that's
Yes.
the balance.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had that exact discussion with the girls because they do the same thing. The boys will do the silverware, and the girls will switch between who does the top, who does the bottom. They always want to do the bottom, which I always thought the top was the easier one.
Yeah, cups
Yeah,
are easy.
and they argue, and so we're like, Becca was like, "This is a one person job. So how about one of
Yeah,
you loads, the other person unloads?"
I like
And so
that.
that's
Maybe
the
I just need,
transition we're in.
maybe regardless of what I decide, the dishwasher is just a one person job from now on.
Yeah.
So that's what we've been we've been kind of playing with, and I think that that might need to be the case, especially for my one son who's so ADHD. He just struggles to stay on task for anything.
Yeah.
If he only has one task he needs to worry about each night, that might help him kind of not have to worry about the decision fatigue of, oh, which thing
Right.
am I do I need to help out with today. So
Routines
I
are
don't know. Maybe
super
we'll
important.
run some experiments on our kids this week and
Okay.
report back next week
I'm going to talk
about
to
some
Beck about
policy
this.
changes because I mean I liked it. I don't remember, like I said, I remember my brother sweeping. That was like his job. And oddly enough, I can't remember exactly what mine was. I think it was just clearing the table, or maybe it was wiping counters. And then somebody loaded the dishwasher, and then somebody did the like stuff that didn't fit in the dishwasher, right? The big dishes that you needed to
Right. Hand
actually
wash.
wash. Yeah, so that was like, so they kind of split it in that. And but I like the idea of, hey, we're just an age limit. These are easy jobs, so they go to the younger kids and
Yeah.
just scale up. And during that season of your life, you are the dishwasher unloader, and then you just do a
Yeah.
good job.
Because I'm just
Well,
thinking
and then
about that
that
with my
it
kids,
leaves
and
the
I think that would work.
theoretically I'm doing the easy stuff, right? As kids age out of the easy stuff, then I just pick up as they
Right.
drop it. So yeah, I don't know, but regardless, yeah, I think my kids. I think I've been slacking on increasing responsibility for all my kids just because
Oh, you're in good company, man.
it's work to sit down. Like I said, it's not easier when my kids do the dishes or chores or anything. And so I need to stop slacking and sit down and say, hey, it's time to age up. It's the beginning of the year. You guys are all a year older than you were last year. You get new chores. And that just is what it needs to be. Of
Yeah.
course, I say all this, but I do have a wife I have to run everything by. So we'll see how that conversation
As
goes.
an engineer, I'm very curious, especially production engineer. So, yeah, production engineers have a very particular vantage point when they tackle problems. I've got a brother-in-law who runs a warehouse for brushes, and he's done all the production science as far as like everything is on casters, so you can put things where they need to be, and you don't have people wasting time walking to go get something. Like
Yeah.
it's a whole world of science.
That point of use idea, right?
Yeah, so it's I'd be very curious to get her specific input on this idea to see, as little resistance as possible and maximize the output
Yeah.
efficiency,
Yeah.
but with little messy humans called children.
Sure. I mean, that's the idea. So I will I will report on how that conversation
I
goes
will
and
as
her
well. I'll
reaction.
talk to Becca about her thoughts on this
Yeah.
because our arms are kind of up in the air. We're surviving, but there's no system, and it's a constant battle. And I would not
Let
mind if even a little bit of that went away.
no, I just need a little. Just take a little off the top, please. And that's what I think I'm just gonna sit down. I'm gonna print this list and just I'm gonna sit down with my kids and be like, hey, this is what's on the list. How do you guys feel about it?
I'd be
Because
curious if they
obviously you're
picked
not
like
doing everything on the list.
if you had to do one
I
thing,
make
what
my
would you
own,
pick?
right? Yeah. Yeah. So
Cool. That's
I
great.
like that idea. Well, this was fun, dude. I'm glad that we get to do this every week. Um,
Yeah, this was I love having like actionable I mean I think that's the whole point of this podcast is to make
yeah,
things as real, physical, tangible as possible. We talk about psychology and that kind of stuff, but to be like, here's something you can try or here's
you know,
take this home and give it a shot. I think it's super valuable and hopefully other people realize based off of us having no idea what we're doing
yeah,
that they're not alone
that's
in that and the whole point is
for
to
sure.
figure it out.
And that's the idea. I mean, I'm writing. I got my list. I've been writing
Perfect.
stuff down. I'm just gonna start doing it because well, I do a pretty good job because I get to edit the podcast, so I get to
Right.
re-listen to everything, get a second time over in my brain. But yeah,
It's awesome.
it's been good. So well, cool. Excited to see how things go this week. We'll talk more about hopefully chores and things next week. And yeah, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, man. Thanks for creating the podcast and thanks for
Yeah,
hopping on a call. And I'll be very curious to check in next week on Chores and we'll see how that goes.
yeah, excited. All right,
All right, man. We'll talk to you
and
later.
cut. and
Sweet.
that's fine. We'll cut it. I'll cut it there. Cut it and
Cool.